Rohan. In the middle of a small village surrounded by mountains, where everyone knows each other, Rohan lived. A 24-year-old girl, she graduated 2 years ago from business school. But she wasn't like any other girl in her village. She was different, an outcast, because her looks didn't meet the harsh beauty standards the villagers wanted. She was beautiful, with her big blue eyes and flowing dark hair, but they didn't see her that way. To them, she was just an ordinary girl, an underachiever, a shadow that moved unnoticed among them. Rohan lived a quiet childhood with her parents in a secluded wooden house at the top of the mountain, away from the noise of the village and the whispers of its inhabitants. Her father would tell her stories on cold nights, and her mother would sing her to sleep. But on the day of her 14th birthday, her life was turned upside down. On that day, she was waiting for her parents to return from the city, eager for her gift, not realizing that the only gift she would receive would be loneliness. She lost her parents in a terrible car accident, and her birthday turned into a painful reminder every year that she was alone in the world. Rohan stayed in her house on the mountain, alone, targeted. She was easy prey in the eyes of some of the village men, but they didn't realize that she wasn't as weak as they thought. She was much smarter than that. She decided to find a safe haven in this harsh community and got a job at a restaurant near the police station, where there was a lot of activity and less chance of being harassed. There, she met another new girl she had never seen before, a young policewoman named Lilian, who had recently moved to the village after also losing her parents. She was 22 years old, with a look that carried a familiar pain. In Lilian, Rohan found a friend she had never had before, someone who didn't judge her based on her appearance, but saw the real her. At a time when everyone had rejected her, it was enough to give her hope that she might be the one who could hold more for her than she expected. The policewoman's name was Lilian, a woman with a strong personality and a look that turned heads wherever she went. Her charm was not only limited to men, but also women, and even children, were attracted to her captivating presence and beauty. Lilian quickly acclimated to the village, where she was warmly welcomed and became known for her courage and boldness. However, there was one thing she couldn't understand: Rohan. Unlike the others, Rohan showed no interest in Lilian's presence, no expression of admiration or even curiosity on her face. For Lilian, this was puzzling and perhaps a bit disturbing. How can a girl like Rohan, who has lived most of her life alone, not relate? To me, I guess she is different from the other girls in the village. And so, Lilian decided to approach Rohan to find out why she was different. She wanted to understand Rohan, to get close to her, not out of pity, but because of something else she couldn't figure out yet. She began her daily visits to the restaurant, not just to eat, but to observe Rohan closely. She would sit far away, at the table near the door, silently watching and enjoying watching Rohan work. She would study her seldom changing facial expressions, trying to understand what was going on in her mind. Rohan noticed, of course, but didn't care. She wasn't used to having someone staring at her like that, or being admired. She had always been told she was ugly, that she would never be the center of anyone's attention. How could she believe that someone would see her differently? But one day, things changed. Lilian decided to come closer, to go beyond the distance she had put between herself and Rohan. This time she sat at a table closer to the counter, where Rohan could see her clearly. This was no ordinary move, but the beginning of something that Lilian herself did not fully realize. What shocked Lilian more than anything else was how the villagers treated Rohan. She saw how they spoke to her with disdain, how they ignored her presence or outright told her to leave, as if she wasn't one of them. Even worse, how some of the men would try to take advantage of her vulnerability, how they would intimidate her in indirect ways, with fleeting touches or glances that carried bad intentions. Lilian felt herself getting angry. She wasn't used to suppressing her emotions, but this time she had to control herself. She couldn't stay there any longer and got up quickly, as if she was running away from something unknown. She walked out of the restaurant with her heart pounding wildly, her pulse racing unnaturally. She sat by the side of the restaurant, trying to calm herself down. But one thought kept nagging at her mind. What is happening to me? Why do I feel this way? Could I be? The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. She didn't expect to find herself in this situation. She never imagined that her heart would beat this way for Rohan. How did this happen? When did it start? So many questions were on her mind, but she couldn't find an answer to them other than surrendering to what she had discovered about herself. Lilian returned to the police station with mixed emotions, between deadly curiosity and the desire to understand. She couldn't ignore it any longer. She had to know everything about Rohan. She sat down at her desk, opened the public records, and began searching through the village files. Who is Rohan? What was her life like before she became an outcast? Why does everyone treat her so harshly? The deeper she delved into the papers, the more surprised she became. As she flipped through the pages, she came across an unexpected piece of information. Restaurant where Rohan works is not just her workplace, it's her property. The property is registered in her name in public records, inherited from her father, but his business partner hid the truth. It wasn't just a fake manager or owner. Her father's former partner was trying to take over the entire restaurant before Rohan came of age and claimed her rights. He made her work there like an employee, humiliated by the villagers, while he reaped the profits. Lilian felt anger rising inside her. How could anyone be so cruel? How come Rohan hadn't figured it out yet? She sat thinking hard, not only about this fact alone, but also about her growing feelings for Rohan. She knew she couldn't say what she felt now, not yet, not until Rohan was of legal age when she turned 18. From that day on, Lilian's behavior changed. Every morning, she would come to the restaurant, sit at the front table directly in front of Rohan, watching her from afar without being too obvious. When Rohan was busy working, Lilian would peek at her, studying her every move, every expression on her face, trying to understand her better. But she didn't want to be someone who just visited her every day. She wanted to be there for her when the time came, to be able to help Rohan not only get the restaurant back, but to build a new life that she deserved. So she started spending her time at the restaurant reading books, but not just any books. Books about business management, about how small businesses in villages succeed, about how to turn a dream into a reality, about how a person can start from scratch and make something great. Lilian was reading silently, but her mind was not quiet. She was thinking, waiting for the right moment, the moment when she could change Rohan's life forever. Lilian wasn't just sitting in the restaurant and reading. She was indirectly trying to get Rohan's attention. After her research, she learned that Rohan was studying business management online by enrolling in a distance learning college and was following her classes and lectures in her spare time. This information made Lilian find something they could have in common, which increased her interest and desire to get closer to Rohan. But Lilian's interest didn't stop there. It became a kind of unspoken protection. She would hide behind the restaurant at closing time, silently watching Rohan return to her mountaintop home. It wasn't just curiosity, but an inner sense of responsibility that drove her to watch her every night for 2 consecutive months. During that time, not all the men who approached Rohan had good intentions. Lilian saw how some of them were trying to pursue her, perhaps to exploit her, perhaps for worse, but she wouldn't allow it. Lilian intercepted every young man or woman who approached her, stopping them, interrogating them, and revealing their intentions to the villagers, leading to some of them being imprisoned. She didn't think about the consequences. She was only concerned with protecting Rohan, even if she didn't realize it. The villagers accepted Lilian's actions, fearing for their daughters and women to live in a dangerous environment.